Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityonma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste to everyone. So good to see you all. Welcome to the 11th session of Atmabodha. Today we have a number of very important ideas to discuss, because in this text he now goes into the techniques to achieve this knowledge. Shankaracharya goes into the actual techniques of meditation, of inquiry, in order to arrive at self-knowledge, Atmabodha. So, as I have always said repeatedly throughout these classes, some technique is to be adopted. We must understand our particular position, our particular stage of development in spiritual life, and proceed from there. So it's a graded path, and adopting a technique, you can go forward easily, because finally this is not about just thinking. It is not about imagining something. It is not an invention, a thought construct. It is a realization. It is arriving at a point where you are able to intuit the ever-present reality of the self. So in order to arrive at it, first of all, we should know where we stand. So many of us, a whole lot of us, are deeply identified with our thought process, with our mind. So then you adopt a particular technique which has to do with clearing up the mind, purifying the mind. And then going ahead, transcending the mind by transforming our consciousness itself. So this understanding that we proceed from where we stand is important in spiritual life. So that then we don't live on the clouds. We actually have to take the path and the means to proceed, to walk on that path. So Shankaracharya here brings in the meditative mind. You will see in the next verse, he is going to tell us how exactly to arrive at self-knowledge. Please go to verse number 38. Vivikta desha asino virago vijitendriyaha bhavaye ekam atmanam tam anantam ananyadhi. Sitting in a solitary place, freeing the mind from desires and controlling the senses, meditate with unswerving attention on the infinite Atman, which is one without a second. Look at all the things he introduces to us. Sitting in a solitary place. Even Sri Ramakrishna recommends it, that it is important to go into solitude now and then, where you can be alone with your mind. This is very important. If you can't go out anywhere into solitude, create a solitary place in your own home. In many homes, especially in the homes of devotees I have seen, they keep a separate room for all this. There's a lot of sense in doing this, because that is you're creating a sacred space right within your home, where you dwell upon these things, you meditate, you chant, you do some puja, arti. And so what happens is a great number of holy thoughts, wholesome thoughts get accumulated in that place. See, thought is vibration. Thought is energy. Thoughts are things. They don't vanish. Once you stop thinking, you have left those impressions, those vibrations there. So next time you enter the same space, you know, those vibrations will usher in the same mood into you. That is why it is important to demarcate a place. Although there is in life is such, there is nothing sacred and nothing secular. But for our meditation practice, it is important to keep a place where you do only that. where you do the same thing repeatedly, day after day, again and again, so that those vibrations collect there, and whenever you enter that room, you have a very positive, consecrated space which will usher the divine mood into you naturally. Try it and see, and this really works. We have a whole lot of space in our homes for so many things. Can't we give a little space for God? He will readily enter your heart if you give a physical space where your physical self can think about Him deeply. So reserve this place in your home only for divine things, for scriptural reading, for concentration, for chanting, and look at the magic of it. Whenever you feel a little over anxious or depressed, go into that space and you will feel the positive energy there. So that is why he says, sitting in a solitary place, freeing the mind from desires, generating the empty mind, which we were talking about in the previous classes, it is important to remove our usual thought forms from the mind in order to be able to meditate. Holy Mother Sri Sharda Devi used to say, this is the most covetable thing, to have a desireless mind. Desirelessness, the joy of it cannot be explained. Because when the mind is empty, it fills up with awareness. And your happiness is directly proportional to your pure awareness, to that content in your mind, not the content of thoughts, of emotions. That is just secondary and you can say a dilute version of what you call happiness. But the actual thing is to generate high-level awareness bereft of all the psychological drama that is constantly going on in the mind. So if we are able to generate this state, you will understand meditation is the sanest state of existence. It is that state which is the most covetable thing, which gives complete satisfaction and fulfillment. There are two things in life which give absolute fulfillment. One is the meditative state. Second is pure love. These are the most fulfilling, these are the blessings of God to the human life, to the human experience. These two states. So if every day you can generate them in your mind, that's a wonderful practice. Then when we get older, what you have been will only ripen as you get older, isn't it? So once you get used to these states of mind, as we get on in years, we will only yearn for this. And this naturally creates a very positive vibration all over your place. In your entire home, it will affect your children, your grandchildren. So this is the way to create an atmosphere of positivity, of divinity, wherever you are. So generate this mind, the desireless mind, every day in your special consecrated space. It is important to do this. And then he says, and concentrate and control the senses. Meditate with unswerving attention. Controlling the senses, obviously this has to be done to control the mind. That is why when we sit in meditation, we close our eyes. Control the senses and the mind will naturally calm down. So here let me give you some tips for meditation. He says then you focus your attention, unswerving attention on the infinite Atman. So before you do this, let me just give you a few tips. Once you sit down in a solitary place, it is always good to sit in the Padmasana posture, cross-legged, but suppose you can't do it. After a certain age, it is difficult to do it. Suppose you can't do it, no problem. Just sit erect, wherever you sit. Make sure that your backbone is straight, your spine is straight. This Erectness of the spine is very important because it will make you naturally alert. And your organs, they will naturally stay in their places. They don't droop. The internal organs, the stomach, the liver, everything will be in place. So this charges up the entire system, the physical body and the mind. Just keeping the spine erect. So this is one very important point in meditation. Secondly, controlling the senses, keeping your eyes and ears closed. The meditative state, it is so important to the spiritual life that without these practices, you will not get a grip on what we are studying. It will just remain like a few clouds in your mind, a few thoughts. So this state has to be generated. Dhyan, what is called. And then regulate your breathing. Once you are sitting in the proper posture and completely still in a solitary place, then the next thing is to regulate your breathing. Make sure it's a long, drawn-out breath that you take. Make sure you are not breathing heavily and fast. Just by regulating your breath, you will usher in the meditative mood. When we have our Sunday classes here, we begin those classes with a 10-minute guided meditation session in which we actually practice this. Right there, you have to attain this complete stillness of body, complete stillness of mind by proper posture and regulated breathing. Then you will not struggle with your mind. See, these two things are fixed. Proper posture, complete stillness in the body. The mind will go on getting still and quiet. And then regulate your breath and you will see the magic of meditation. Then you start the meditative process. Whatever you are initiated in, that should be done intensely. And if you are not initiated in anything, meditate on something like Om, meditate on something vast, like the mountains, the Himalayas, something that quietens your mind. Meditate on something holy, the picture of Sri Ramakrishna. You see, all the pictures which we have of Sri Ramakrishna have him in samadhi. So if you just meditate on that perfect form, you will enter his state of mind. This is the power of holy objects. So take up an object of meditation and concentrate your entire vital energy on that. Please remember, even thought and emotion are expressions of your mental energy, vital energy. Thought is the finest expression of your vital energy. So when you dedicate your entire vitality, vital energy, it means your thought and emotion are all imbued with that divine consciousness. They are riveted in the Lord. This state is called Pratyaya Ekatanata by Patanjali, which means you have stretched out one single thought, the thought of the divine. You are riveted on that. If you generate this will do everything for you. It will bring you to this knowledge of Atmabodha. For considerable amount of time, you must generate this Pratyaya Ekatanata. Pratyaya means the actual object of your mental modification. And Ekatanata means stretched out single object. Your mind does not move from there. So just generate this state and see, and you will understand why we insist on this state, the meditative state. Even a single bout of real meditation, and you will know where the actual joy of life lies. Without meditation, your mind will keep fooling itself. Even intelligence does not develop without meditation. So that is why you see the insistence here. Most Vedantic teachers insist on the disciplines of yoga to attain to the knowledge of Brahman, because this state has to be generated. The ability of the mind to remain riveted at one point, excluding everything from its mental field. This capacity should develop. As a result, it develops great strength. If you can't immediately generate the meditative state, take help from the holy ones. Whom do we call a holy person? One whose mind is in this. The strength of that mind will change the vrittis of your mind. So today we can have a lot of holy company through books, through the net, but connect with something which will lift your mind upward. Once you attain to this stillness, you will understand that the nature of your mind, at the foundation of your mind, is awareness. That is why you feel your thoughts as something conscious, as conscious entities. Awareness is, as it were, invested in your thought process. Now in meditation, you are separating the two. So this is a very important state to attain. Only through this you will know you are actually awareness upon which thought has been superimposed. And upon that thought, further objects have been superimposed. So you appear to be only conscious of objects and thoughts about them. This can be known only if you touch this foundation. And then Advaita will appear as the only real thing. Because this is not a thought construct, this is actually a discovery. It is uncovering the truth. Everything else is a thought construct. So that is why you see he is mentioning this state. Let me here give you a beautiful incident from the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. See why it is important to actually walk the path, to enter into the heart of a technique and to taste this joy. In the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, there is one incident which is very well depicted by M, the author of, the writer of the Gospel. So he, what happens is Sri Ramakrishna once went to the house of Ramchandra, who was a devotee, a close devotee of the master. And there he met a Vedantic monk. And he was impressed with him. So he told Ram that when you come to Dakshineshwar next, you bring him along. So now in this scene, Ram has brought that monk to Dakshineshwar to meet the master. And the master and the monk are sitting close to each other. The monk is sitting on a couch and he's listening to the master. And then Sri Ramakrishna tells him suddenly, let me read this portion because it is beautiful. They were happily talking in Hindustani. The master says, what do you feel about all this, the world? And the monk says, it is all like a dream, illusory. Then the master says, yes, Brahman alone is real. What is Brahman? Then the monk says, Brahman, it is Om. Brahman is the only reality. It is the sound Om. Then Sri Ramakrishna says, but there must be something indicated by that sound Om, isn't it? The monk says, here the indicator and the indicated are the same. As soon as he said this, Sri Ramakrishna went into deep samadhi, because in his mind it is all clear. What is Om? What is the indicator? What is the indicated? So he plunged into that state completely. And the monk was simply flabbergasted seeing the master. He had never seen samadhi. He had only read about this. Sri Ramakrishna went into that state for a long time, and all the devotees were simply stunned looking at that picture. As you see Sri Ramakrishna's photo, completely indrawn, completely still, radiating bliss. Then after a long time, Sri Ramakrishna came out of this state, and then he started praying to Mother. And he's telling her, Mother, don't make me unconscious of the outer world. I want to converse with this monk. I want to talk about Satchidananda. So make me conscious, Mother, of this world. Don't make me unconscious. He means to say super conscious. He was in the super conscious state. Now he wants to come back to the normal state of consciousness. He's praying. Then slowly he comes back to the normal state of consciousness, and then he tells the monk, see, for now keep your I am he aside. Let us enjoy I and thou. See, let me tell you the exact words. The master says, please do away with your I am he. Let us now keep I and thou to enjoy the fun. And for the first time, this monk understood what this Vedanta is about. He is going into that state and coming out and giving the knowledge from there. That is why I say you must walk the path. This is not about thinking. It is about doing. Once the state is attained, knowledge will flow by itself. There is no end to that knowledge. As Sri Ramakrishna himself used to say, the knowledge will just flow by itself. Everything will be crystal clear. There is the famous story of the Zen monk, of a Zen student. He was not a monk, who wanted to climb a mountain. And he went to the mountain, but he had a lot of hesitation whether he'll be able to make it. And he wanted to know more about the path to the summit. It was a very long way to the summit, maybe some 20 miles or so. And how long was the path, and how was it, and will he be able to do it? And he had all these questions and a lot of hesitation. So he just stood there, and after some time he saw a couple of boys coming down, descending. So he asked them, did you reach the summit? And they said, yes. And then he said, how's the path to the summit? And then they described everything. They told him that it's all forested. There are a number of trees, it's all shady, and how he must go, and how the path unwinds and goes upward. So all this, the entire mountainous trail they described. And then he consoled his mind. You see, you will be able to make it. And then they left. Still he was thinking, will I make it? Can I do it? And then the next group came down. And he asked them also, how did you go? How's the path? And then they also described everything. And then again he consoled his mind. See, you can make it. But still he could not move too much. Just a few steps. And then the third group came down. And he asked them, how's the view from the summit? And they described the breathtaking view. And said that this is something you must experience in life, to know what it is like to stand on the summit. And they also left. But the tragedy is, this student never made the journey. He only asked about the path. He never experienced the joy of standing at the summit and the liberation that the mind feels when you stand at the summit of a great mountain. See, I had the great blessing of living in the Himalayas for quite some time. When I was a brahmacharini, I lived in our Almora ashram. So I also had this tendency to go to the mountains, to go to a solitary place and just sit there. And really, once you reach the summit of a peak, of a, let's say hills of a hill, the view is something stunning, breathtaking. And the sheer stillness and calmness that you feel there, your mind will naturally become meditative. So these are all something you have to experience. You can't tell the mind what it is like until you get into that state. So it is important to walk the path, to walk the trail upward and get this firsthand, because remember always, these experiences are only in the first person. Experience itself means in the first person. And if you make the journey, you will get it. So that is why it is so very important to do meditation, not just to know about it, not just to think about it, but to do it day after day, live in that atmosphere, and then after some time you will see what it has done to you. It will change everything that needs changing. It will transform your whole life, because remember, intuiting pure awareness, all that it means is your very nature is pure awareness. And because it is conscious by itself, it is called consciousness. So you can know it only when you transform your present consciousness. This transformation takes time and the meditative practice. This very scattered awareness, which is presently invested in your thought process, will clear itself up and usher you into the state of pure awareness. And you will know instantly that is the atman that they are talking about. So this is to be done, to be known. Only very advanced yogis can just go into it with one Mahavakya. But for the rest of us, it's a graded path which has to be walked. The journey has to be made. So that is why he will be telling us all this again and again. Look at the verse number 39. Atman eva khilam drishyam pravilapya dhiya sudhi bhavaye ekam atmanam nirmal akashavat sada. The wise one should intelligently merge the entire objective world in Atman alone and constantly think of that Atman as the stainless sky. See, what is the meditation like? Intelligently merge the entire objective world in Atman alone. Here, merging means you become aware of the fact that what you are calling world is nothing but a superimposition of name and form on the substratum of Atman, awareness. This is merging. You have united the two. In meditation, you separate it so that you get this knowledge. You get this understanding that realization means nothing but knowing what always is. So this is how the Atman is to be known. See, please remember, in the act of meditation, you don't become aware of awareness. You just become fully aware. Because anything you become aware of, in your experience, it will become an insentient object. Please see this, if this is true or not. Think and see. Anything that you become aware of is an object to your experience. And from your experiential standpoint, it is insentient. Brahman is not insentient. It is the very source of sentience. So you can never know it as an object. You are Brahman. If you stall and stop all the different, you can say, all the different things happening in your mind, all the different thought forms, and attain the state of meditation, this will be revealed to you. So there is no knowing Brahman. It is being Brahman. You just become that. You were always that. What was superimposed upon that has been separated from it. That's all. This is merging into the state of pure being by separating yourself from what you never were anyway. So that is why these words are used like this. You see, he says, merge the entire objective world in Atman and constantly think of Atman as the stainless sky. Use your thinking. In meditation, you think of the Lord, you think of the Atman. Use your thought process. But where it will take you is something beyond thought. So this process of meditation has been described in various ways in our Upanishads. Let me go a bit into it a little more, because the connection between the meditative process and Vedantic truth, intuiting this, should be clear in our minds. Why is it that Vedantic teachers have insisted on a process like this to come to this knowledge, although the knowledge is ever present? It is because of the nature of our minds. For this, let me tell you the story of Indra and Virochana, which you find in the Chandogya Upanishad. It is a story straight from the Upanishad, so it's very powerful. Please observe this story. So, it so happened that one day there was a loud Akashvani. You know, that kind of thunderous announcement in the sky. And this Akashvani was made by Prajapati Brahma, who is the creator of the universe. So what did he pronounce? What message had he to give to everyone? The gods can hear it, the asuras could hear it, the human beings could hear it. So it's a kind of cosmic FM radio, which everyone hears. So in this Akashvani said that realize the Atman, for that is the only way to satisfy all your desires and to bring complete fulfillment into your life and to go beyond all the dualities of life. The greatest fulfillment can be got by the realization of this Atman, the one without a second, and thus one becomes immortal. This was the pronouncement made by Prajapati Brahma. Now this Akashvani echoed through all the lokas, all the different realms of existence. And the gods heard of it and they thought, oh, this knowledge is very precious. And Prajapati Brahma is asking us to learn it from him. So let us learn it. So the gods, by gods are meant these Indra, Varuna, Agni, all these. So they decided to send their king, who was Indra, to Prajapati Brahma, to his ashram, to learn this Atmavidya or Brahma Vidya. Now the asuras also heard of this Akashvani. And the asuras are the demons. So they thought, well, this announcement, it said that all your desires are satisfied as a result of this knowledge of the Atman, which means this is the master key to satisfy our desires, which are enormous. You know, they are asuras. So, well, let's go and get this knowledge. And they sent their king also to Prajapati Brahma's ashram. And their king was Virochana. So this is the story of Indra and Virochana. Now these two came to Prajapati's ashram, and as soon as they entered the ashram, their troubled minds sort of came to rest, because it has very positive vibrations, the ashram. They entered into Prajapati's room and they bowed down to him. And he said, well, what is it? He could recognize who they are, although they came as students, as brahmacharis. He recognized them and said, well, the king of gods and the king of the demons have come. And what can I do for you? And they said that we want the knowledge of the Atman, because we want to satisfy all desires, all together, all at once. And we want to go beyond these dualities of life and realize who we truly are. Then Prajapati Brahma said, okay, I will teach you this knowledge, but not so easy. You have to stay in the ashram for some time. You have to adopt this lifestyle because this is a transformation of your own consciousness. It is not a descent from somewhere, from up there. No, it is transforming your own present awareness into its most clarified form. So stay with me for some time. So the two of them settled down in his ashram. Now, in an ashram, you have to live a very austere life. So they had to get up early in the morning and do meditation and study the scriptures and learn the chanting and do that, learn the worship. They had to serve the guru. They had to do all the work in the ashram, bring water and collect wood for his yajnas and serve all the other disciples of the master and the devotees who would come there. So they had to do all this work and they did it. And they saw that gradually over the years, as they kept on serving in the ashram, their minds were becoming calmer and more stable. So they were happy. 32 years passed. Now, after 32 years, it suddenly came into their minds that we came here to learn the knowledge of the Atman, and we have been meditating, but we have not received any instruction nor got the experience. What do we do? So they went to Prajapati and they said, please instruct us on this knowledge of the Atman. And then Prajapati said, look at this. He says, the light in your eyes, that is the Atman. What is the light in your eyes? He used the word the being in your eyes. Now, what is the light in your eyes? We know only physical light, but what shines in your eyes as light? Isn't it your awareness? Because you are aware, your senses are blooming, completely conscious. They appear lighted up. They are sort of lit up actually from within. So he's pointing out to awareness. The light in your eyes is the light of awareness. But these two did not understand, Indra and Virochana. So they told him, well, please instruct us further. And then he said, okay, do a thing, stay with me for some more time. And again, it seems a long time passed. And then, according to the story, another 32 years passed. Then again they came for the instruction of the Atman, and he asked them to bring a tub of water. And he told them, what do you see in this tub of water? And they looked into it and they saw their own reflection, which was all because they were leading such austere lives in the ashram. They had overgrown hair and nails. So then he said, well, trim all that and come. And then tell me, what do you see in this container? And they saw, and they said, well, this is a reflection. And he said, the being in this reflection is the Atman, is the Supreme One. Now, Virochana was actually an asura, he was a demon. So he had a muddled brain. He immediately thought, oh, the Guru says that this is me, this is the Atman. And this is a reflection of my body, which means the body is the Atman. This is a conclusion he made. So he said, well, I have nothing more to learn. I have understood the ultimate truth. And he went back to his palace, to his loka, his realm, and told all the asuras, you know, what we were believing in, that the body is everything, that is a fact. My Guru gave me this truth, that the body is the Atman. And so go ahead, indulge and eat, drink, be merry. Don't bother about anything else because the body is everything, man. The body is the self. So this was Virochana's understanding. But Indra, who was still in the ashram, he immediately thought, what I see now is a reflection of my body. Isn't it? This is the reflection of my body. But I am able to see both the body and the reflection as an object outside of me. It's an object of my perception. Isn't the body an object of your perception? Whatever you are doing, the movements of your hands, you are aware of the movements of your hands. Your hands are not aware of you. You are aware of closing your eyes. Your eyes are not aware of you. Which means the body is as much an object of your perception as any other object outside the body. So Indra understood that means obviously both this reflection and the body are objects of my perception. I cannot be merely this. I am the subject apart from it. See, Dridrishya Vivek he is applying. So he went to Prajapati and said, well, I have understood, but please tell me who I am further, because I know that the body is only, just like how this is a reflection of the body in the water, the body is a reflection of, in a sense, something else. So tell me who I am. And then Prajapati Brahma told him, well, son, stay with me for some more time. So it seems another 32 years he stayed, a total of 96 years. And 5 years after that, with intense sadhana, Prajapati Brahma finally gave him the knowledge of the Atman. How did it happen? By a transformation of his own awareness, his own consciousness. I'm telling you, at present, what you are calling your awareness is a reflection of the supreme truth of the Atman in the mind. That reflection also is totally enmeshed in your thought process. That is why I keep saying awareness is invested in the thought process. So if you remove all of this and go to the original thing, your consciousness is naturally transformed into its source factor, which is pure consciousness. So this takes time. Although for a very advanced yogi, it's a matter of, it's instantaneous because the mind is so ripe. So in the case of Indra, it took him so many years, and finally he had the knowledge, the supreme knowledge of the self. In the Kathopanishad, it's beautifully described. So usually I quote that here. Na sandrishe tishtati rupamasya, na chakshusha pashyati kaschanainam, Rida manisha manasa viklupto ya evam vidur amritaste bhavanti. Which means, na sandrishe tishtati rupamasya. You cannot know the Atman as an object in front of you. It has no rupa, it has no form. Na chakshusha pashyati kaschanainam. You cannot see it with these eyes. Rida manisha manasa viklupto. It is known by the wise in their heart when all the knots of the heart are cut asunder. When the heart is completely purified, you intuit the presence of the self as your own pure being in the recesses of your own heart. Here is meant the heart center, the dhi. When one enters the heart center, there is no distinction between the intellect and the heart. You just know. That is all you can say about it. You know your pure being as pure consciousness. This is Atmajnana. So this is how Indra attained to the state of Brahma Vidya, the knowledge of Brahman, through tapasya, meditation, and following the Guru's instructions. The ever-present reality of the Atman is to be known through these means. Then, let's go to verse number 40 and then we'll go into the Q&A after this. Rupa varnadikam sarvam vijnaya paramarthavit paripurnam chidananda swarupena avatishthate. He who has attained the supreme goal discards all such objects as name and form and dwells as the embodiment of infinite consciousness and bliss. See, then it is not a struggle to remove name and form, because you understand it is something superimposed upon the reality of the self. Standing on that substratum of pure being, you can easily remove everything, discard. or distance everything from you. There is no actual struggle or as it is made to look, suffering in spiritual life. Once you enter once sadhana becomes intense, you will understand this is the natural course your mind will take. You just unravel the truth. There is no struggle there to know. And that is why no turn of thought, no logical understanding can take you to this. It is an opening from within. It is a transformation of consciousness leading to transcendence. As long as the ego is active, ego is that part of your mind which is ahamatmika, which claims to be something apart from the self. As long as that is active, there will be no end to the thoughts and emotions in your mind. Because the ego feeds on all this. You can't stop thought. But once you shake off this ego, by inquiry, by asking, who am I truly? Then naturally the mind will stop. So this is to be understood and grasped. There is no struggle in spiritual life. There is only joy and bliss if you stick to the path intensely. Otherwise, there's a lot of struggle. And the more you delay all this, the more you will feel the struggle. So let us be up and doing. That is the whole thing, whole point. Now I think we have just a few minutes. Let us go into the question answer session because the questions are good. And there are a whole lot of things which would be useful to what we have discussed today in this Q&A. The first question is, in the last lecture, you told us that mostly all humans are on the hedonistic treadmill due to ignorance. How can I get off this? I am condensing the questions because sometimes they're quite long. I'll just give you the essence. How can I get off this hedonistic treadmill? And sometimes there are failures, and how do I tackle this? See, every mind undergoes this. This is the nature of the mind. Until it steps into reality, the unreal is all that you will have to experience. So, it is only practice that makes you perfect. This applies most in spiritual life, that it is through practice that one overcomes these tendencies of the mind. The mind will keep feeding upon whatever is available to it. That is why you can't get off this treadmill. But through the power of sadhana, Sri Ramakrishna used to say this, Abhyas yog bole ekta ache, he used to say. There is something called abhyas, practice. By doing it again and again, the mind gets into this tendency, this habit of remaining still, of concentrating on one particular thing, of purifying itself of unwanted thought, of diving deep into awareness. It gets these habits, and that is only then you can get off this treadmill. Otherwise, in various ways, your mind will keep going into that. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Param Drishtva Nivartate. When does the mind get its peace and get into this knowledge, get completely purified? When it sees this supreme truth. So never leave your practice. If you leave spiritual practice, some people sometimes say this, that the truth is always available. So what is the need to, even the great direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, do you know how much of spiritual sadhana they have done, spiritual practice? Please read the life of Raja Maharaj or Mahapurush Maharaj, Shivananji or Swami Brahmananji, and see the amount of practice they have done. The need to train the mind to gain this knowledge firsthand is very important. In fact, lifetimes are spent in sadhana for many yogis. Once a disciple asked Raja Maharaj, Swami Brahmananda, that why should Sri Ramakrishna has already done everything for you. Still, why do you do so much of spiritual practice? You work so hard, even at this age. And he said, I have to make it my own. It is true that he has given me everything, but I have to make it my own. So a mind which has become very sattvic cannot but do spiritual practice. Once you get a taste for meditation, everything else will appear as something far lower. And you can't leave this. So developing that taste is very important. Atmabodha and these scriptures are to be studied along with these practices like these. And not just intellectually. Intellectual grasp is not enough. So don't keep worrying. Well, I still have desires. I'm not able to get off this treadmill. What do I do? It's only through practice that it will become possible. This entire sense-mind apparatus, through the hammer blow of practice, it is to be brought into a certain form of discipline. And then it will work like a magical instrument which will unravel the highest knowledge for you. It is like that. The next question is, we are here based on our past karma and vasanas. When was the first starting point when we started accumulating karmas and vasana? Because the initial should be nothing. So, according to the Upanishads, the Vedas, Brahman was all alone, the one without a second. But he wanted manifestation. He wanted a companion. So he became two, Purusha and Prakriti. Now, what they mean to say is, see, when we talk of Lord Shiva or Mother Shakti, we call them Adi Yogi, Adi Shakti. You must have heard the word Adi, the ancient one. In the beginning, obviously, there is only consciousness. In the Bhagavad Gita also you have this idea. The manifested universe, what you are calling manifestation, it is only one face of the entire truth of existence. There was always consciousness. It comes into manifestation. It goes back into its original being. Again, it gets manifested. It's only a question of manifestation and unmanifestation. So, here, when did it all start? If you say it started the same way for all of us. We were the unmanifest pure consciousness, Brahman, which we are even now. But the mind has come into manifestation. And that is why vasanas have come. Desires have come. Tendencies have come. Now you can go back to that original state and organize your life according to this aim. When you organize your mind, you naturally organize your life. Once you organize your mind, you can manifest whatever you want to manifest in this world, or if you want to enter the unmanifest, you can go there also. All you have to do is first manifest it in your mind, organize your mind towards that. So this is the way. For all of us, it's the same. Then, the next question is, I do understand that if I could feel myself to be the atman and not the body, I would not be bothered by the ailments and worries of this old age. I am doing sadhusam through Zoom lectures in these COVID times. Is there any hope for me? There is infinite hope for everyone, as Vivekananda said, because our very nature is infinite. Our very nature is Brahman. By doing these discussions, these meditations, you create the impressions required for the higher life. Isn't it? Because whatever vrittis you create, they are going to become your sanskars. So this kind of a discussion or dwelling on these scriptures is very important. So definitely all these Zoom talks, all this is going to help you They will create the impressions required for the higher life. But the higher life is to be, as I said, practiced by oneself. Sadhana is to be done. And then, no matter what your age, see, where there's a will, there's a way. And once you start practicing, you will feel more and more, you develop more and more taste for this. And that's how we proceed. So it is important to do all of this. Then the next question, it's a long one, but what it's asking for is, how do we make our children align with these thoughts? And what about those who are not doing it? Aren't they taking a detour? So yes, you can make your children do this only if you are doing it at home, first of all. And secondly, you are creating a good ambience in your homes. Our children today are exposed to a whole lot of things. They know everything actually about life, but this external manifestation is all that they know. If you create a spiritual ambience in your homes, and if you yourself perform spiritual practices, they see you in a meditative state, they will get inspired to do that. Once when I was in Chennai, one little girl, her story was told to me. This girl was hardly 6 years, I think, and she insisted upon Diksha, initiation, and got it. And when she was asked that, why is it that you want to get Mantra Diksha at this young age, because will you do it? She said, definitely I will do it, because every day morning when I get up, I see my mother sitting in front of the picture of Sri Ramakrishna in my, it is called God's room, that room which I spoke of, where you do your meditative practices. I see my mother sitting there in front of this picture, and she looks like a Devi. She's radiating so much of joy, and sometimes there are tears of love in her eyes. And seeing that, I always feel I also should have that, and so I am asking for Diksha. This little girl, look at the impression created in. This is the best gift you can give your children, that you inspire them towards a higher life by doing it in your own life. It's greater than any huge bank account you give them, or anything that you give them. This impression, this sanskar is invaluable. Please give them this, and their life is made. And what about people who are not doing it? Well, you concentrate on your sadhana. Don't worry about those who are not doing it. What can you do about it? Focus on your life, your spiritual life. The last question is very interesting. Please see this. When the pranavayu gets out of our body, there is no sign of life in that body. It means there is no consciousness. Where does the consciousness go? And what is the coma state? Brahman, if present as a divine spark in the human body, why do you suggest meditation to be practiced by placing the Ishta in the heart? So, to answer these questions, let me just give you an illustration which we commonly use in Vedanta. Now, imagine that you have placed a bucket of water in the sun, in the midday sun. So, the bucket of water has a reflection of that sun. The reflected sun is shining in that water. Now, suppose you change this bucket, you pour the same water into another bucket, again you will have a reflected sun. This bucket is your body. The water in the bucket is your mind. The reflected sun there is the reflection of pure consciousness in your mind. You can call it your ego, or that pramata is the word we use, reflected awareness. But the real awareness, pure consciousness, is the sun. Now, because the sun is shining there, ever untouched by this entire apparatus of the bucket, because it is shining by itself, so there is a reflection in the water. Now, suppose you put this water, suppose the bucket starts leaking, and you change this water into another bucket. Again, you are going to have a reflected sun there. When you change the bucket, what we mean to say is, suppose you go into another body. Death is actually called kicking the bucket only in English. So suppose the bucket starts leaking or is not okay, then you get rid of this bucket, you pour the water into another bucket. Same thing is happening. The mind goes into another body. The Sukshma Sharir enters another body, and again it will have that reflected sun there. The ego sense, the reflected awareness will be there. That's why it's a sentient being, you see. But from the standpoint of the original sun, there is absolutely, this has no meaning. Changing the water from one bucket to another is what is called transmigration. So the water is, as it were, reincarnated in another bucket. From the standpoint of the bucket, all this is true. But from the standpoint of the sun, nothing of this matters. Because even the reflected sunlight in the water is not real. It's only a reflection. So your real nature is that sun which is ever shining. But just now you think you are this bucket with the water, with a mind in it, and with a reflected awareness, an atman maybe within it. It is not so actually from the standpoint of the sun. From the standpoint of Brahman, nothing has happened. But from your standpoint, you have transmigrated and reincarnated. So this is how you have to understand this entire picture. Please see, as long as you are identified with this bucket of the body, transmigration holds for you. And so clear the waters there and try to catch a pure reflection of the sun and try to see the sun through that. But from the standpoint of the sun, nothing, there's no transmigration and no reincarnation. So if you ask me, what happens, where does consciousness go? It obviously doesn't go anywhere. It's right where it is. What is the coma state? See, consciousness is always there, but your vital functions are going on in the coma state. That is why there is life in the body, but the brain is not functioning. It's a vegetative state of a long coma state, not the short one. Like one of our Matajis here was in that state for 9 years. In a sort of long, prolonged coma state. So a kind of a vegetative state where the brain is not functioning as it should, but vitality is there, vital energies, hence life functions are there. She is breathing, occasionally she will move her hand, slight movement of the eyes sometimes, but no sense of herself, no sense of personality. It was like that. So this is a state where consciousness is there, but its manifestation in a complete body is not there because the instrument of brain is damaged. Then, Brahman is present as a divine spark in human body. Why do you suggest meditation on Ishta in the heart? Because in order to bring your thought, emotion and will into a kind of unification, it is important to take the help of an object which you can love. Isn't it? The Ishta, the personal God, is an object of your love. So by that way, you direct all of your emotion, thought and will towards one object. If you can do it without this, fine, you go ahead and do it. But a personal God, an Ishtam placed in your heart always helps. That's why the Diksha process helps you do this. Please take up that meditation which most appeals to you and see that you succeed in that meditation. That's the most important point. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, you can meditate on God with form or God without form, but you should meditate. You should attain the meditative state. That's the bottom line. So I think time is up. Let's stop here. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukha Bhaga Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.